like going to heaven. I'm going back to heaven.
It is 9:30 on a Thursday night, and you are tuned into Beltway Radio and Beyond, which can mean one and only thing.
Ding, 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 ding.
Ding, ding, ding. This is ChipChat. Welcome to ChipChat, everybody. I'm Chip. Who are you, Tez?
You just told him, baby. You just told him.
Yes. Broadcasting live from the afterlife. Tez is joining us from heaven.
Yeah, as you can see, God's light shines down upon me.
Despite your hat.
Oh my God! Look here.
No, I wasn't because of a gnat's hat. It's just that it's shading your face and all.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, don't worry.
You're so blessed that you need a hat. Yeah.
That's. Did they just hit the grand slam? Oh, did they just give it up?
Well, we are not broadcasting baseball without express written consent of MLB.
Of the MLB, yes. Okay.
We're just telling you information that we may have learned.
Sweep the Mets. Sorry, I'm very excited. As people know, I despise the Mets, and it seems that
Mad Max is there.
Mad Max, and if per Buster only on baseball tonight, or not baseball tonight, on Sunday Night Baseball, it's the Mets forced him to take the suspension because he was going to try to fight it.
Right, yeah.
And they were like, yo, we're about to play the Nationals. Like, this is the best time to do it.
Yeah, we don't need you right now.
Which, I mean.
It's disrespectful.
As to quote, I'm going to leave the person anonymous, but I need to find in one of the group chats here that I had that they said Max was really upset about not playing because he wants to quote dog us like a prison boyfriend every time.
Oh my God!
Which I was like, I laughed for 5 minutes because I was like, that's true. He wants to come here and destroy any other team he played before. But
yeah. You know that you'll notice it's baseball season if you follow Tez on Twitter.
Yes,
because there's a lot of random out of context nuance going on over there.
Exactly. There's a nuance app. Hopefully, I was on a trial of something called Narwhal.
Oh, is there finally a nuance?
There's something called Narwhal. It's kind of it was interesting. They take articles and it's a news article. Then they have some generated AI that gives you the gist of it if you don't want to read because no one likes to read. And then look, they have to.
How is that any different than just reading the article?
I know, right? But I guess it's just like a condensed, abridged version of it. But the idea is that people can then have discourse back and forth on their on the topic.
It was going to devolve into Nazis and stuff.
It was interesting.
Immediately.
But yeah, so but here we are on ChipChat.
All right, so we are live tonight. Yeah. Tucker is not. We are going to cover that.
When that news broke, I was like, oh my. I just thought specifically of you.
It's very exciting because our show has been on since 2015 and his show has been on since 2016 and we have outlasted him. Now, it's true that Tucker had other shows that predate, but in the contiguous time frame, ChipChat has outlasted Tucker. So congratulations to us.
Did he almost go for the cycle of getting fired? He missed
that,
right?
He's been fired by CNN, MSNBC, and now Fox.
Okay.
If he can figure out how to get on to ABC and then fired by them, I guess he can get the cycle. But
he's guest starring on Abbott Elementary this coming week. So.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Of all the shows.
Exactly.
It's also really sort of noteworthy about how precipitously he's been fired from all three networks. That it's all rapid, something bad. Jon Stewart just ate your lunch on live television. You're fired. That's just how it went. So anyway, It is a spectacular moment for us. We are very proud. Also this week, we have a guest. His name is Mike Richmond. He is the foremost expert on all things Washington football team, hence the outfit. We are still celebrating the end of the Snyder era, so we're going to ask him all kinds of stuff that we can ask him.
You see that? You see that competent team up 95?
Yeah, they look super competent at the moment.
The competent team of 95.
We may need to ask Brian about that.
Yeah, they're very confident. That's what I'll say. That's a proper run organization.
Okay. Also, there's some other stuff. Japan tried to land something on the moon, and there's a whole segment about beer, which is a thing we do know a lot about.
Yes.
And bunch of other stuff.
One of my favorite beers too.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
I really enjoy that. There's a place that gives a little pony of that.
Yeah, and a shot.
Yeah, delicious.
The Pug.
Yeah. Oh, that is true as well. Yes.
Yeah, the Pug down on H Street. I don't know if they get the pony. I think it's a full size High Life.
Full, yeah.
Yeah, full in a shot for like $5 or something like that.
Hopefully, inflation's out here, so
Yeah. You never know. It's still High Life,
I know, right?
It's immune to inflation. It's
I was going to say it came right here. Water.
It's like the Dogecoin of beer.
Oh my God! Careful. That ends up being a thing.
Elon tried it. His dad outed him. It was pretty funny. Okay, so do you have a word?
Do I have a word? Yes.
Okay. I've got a word. Let's see if it works. So sit back, grab some
Jesus.
It's rocket time. You're listening to the best show, the only show, Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and beyond.
Swips.
All right, welcome back to Chip Chat here on Beltway Radio and beyond. I am your host, Chip. With me is Tez.
What's poppin', y'all?
So Tez was on assignment last week, and Brian had to do the show with me. Brian was extremely successful in delivering his sweeps, his street balls, and various other intro, outro bits. So shout out to Brian.
Thank you. We really appreciate you. I saw in one clip that said the white man, and I was like, people not going to get this.
A lot of people don't know. That's why we took the opportunity to show Brian on the video that he is, in fact, the only white person on this network.
God gracious. Yeah. Oh, my God. Also, too, just like I know my word was Jesus. How did Jesus start getting all these commercials?
That's been a weird thing where there's been this
What is the Jesus lobby?
It's the try to make Jesus into a left-wing hero and steal it back from Fox.
Is that what it is?
I think that's what it is.
Interesting. Because I'm like, this is a weird... Like, look, man, we don't go to church in this nation anymore. Right?
Yeah, it's not super relevant to me, obviously, because I'm Jewish. But like,
you're like, is it a thing?
I don't really care.
Yeah, right.
Doesn't matter.
It's not hurt. I guess it's not hurting anybody. It seems the message seems.
It seems safe-ish, but there's also the risk that it's proselytizing, and then that's like not necessarily great.
Yeah, but sorry, I'm derailing the show. Jesus derailed the show.
That's okay. Speaking of Jesus, Tucker Carlson got fired. So two people got fired, actually. Yeah. So we're going to talk about one, then we're going to talk about the other, and we're going to talk about them together. So Tucker got fired. Now, a lot of people thought that this was like immediately like after the
Dominion.
the Dominion lawsuit.
Yeah.
It was related to that. I want to be clear, but it's not really about that. Yeah. So at issue here is that Tuckums apparently ran an awful shop full of sexism and misogyny and racist bullshit.
He was like the Washington football team of like media.
Yeah, but like
workplaces.
the thing that doesn't make sense to me is that this stuff came out in the trial,
Right.
and it specifically came out because there was a producer that was working for him. Her name is Abby Grossberg.
Yeah, she let it
Who
fly.
her name is Abby Grossberg. Like that should be a key. She is member of the tribe. We're probably cousins somewhere, and she was like prevented from testifying truthfully in the first case in the deposition of Dominion, and then sued to get the evidence that she had, including a bunch of tapes and stuff, into that lawsuit, but also a separate lawsuit where she's alleging this sexist, hostile work environment. And apparently that is the thing that the Murdochs were like, whoa, we will tolerate all kinds of stuff, but not being a shitty place to work. And what I'm really completely baffled by is, first of all, how are they just finding this out? Because the allegations that she's making make it seem like it was blatant and obvious.
Yeah.
They're out there using the C word every second of the day, all the time. They've got posters of Pelosi and swimsuits up on the wall.
It's very sick. It was
which Michigan governor candidate they wanted to have sex with. Like the whole thing is awful, but also exactly what you would expect based on the show. There's nothing surprising here.
He has to create the vibe before they go out live on television, right?
Yeah, it's like, if you've ever gone to the taping of a sitcom, they don't just start with like, Lucy, I'm home. Like there's series of comedians that come out and warm up the crowd. But like, we know from the Dominion stuff that the character that Tucker played on television is not necessarily who he is all the time in terms of Trump, right? Because it turns out that he doesn't really like him and he thinks he's a fraud and all this other stuff. But what we're learning about Tucker in terms of his like testicle tanning pursuit of testosterone and degradation of women that he does on air is exactly the same as who he is off the air. And why was anybody at Fox shocked about this?
I'm wondering if there's more to drop on this. I don't know.
There is.
Yeah.
So the other like seriously big question about this is we found out yesterday and today that Fox kept like a blackmail dossier on Tucker in case they fire him and he decides to go against the network and attack them. They're going to be like, well, we're going to release all this stuff. If you're building a dossier on somebody in the event that you have to fire him, you probably should have fired him a long time ago. Like that's an admission of culpability here, isn't it?
But I guess, but not when he's raking in them type of viewers, man. That show is the show. Like,
yeah, but if Grossberg's lawsuit alleges that Fox allowed for this hostile work environment, the proof is going to be in that they fired Tucker and kept this dossier, because it's going to be like, well, why else would you have this?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be the more lawsuits are obviously on the way. I also think that some of this probably plays into, and you can't be bigger than the network, I think. And I think some of that is into this as well, too. And he was transcending. You could almost say he was bigger than Fox, or he was Fox. And I think that probably, along with these lawsuits, plays a little bit into it. Because, right, we know that when it comes down to these, like, toxic work environments, I mean, O'Reilly was a little more than even toxic. He was out here.
Yeah,
he's a little
outright predator.
Right. But I think they've shown that, we'll can you. The 9 o'clock or the 8 o'clock spot makes you. It's not you. And right, O'Reilly, and they say they're making, but like we haven't heard. I mean, Glenn Beck was a huge thing.
Yeah,
he created like he was the Tea Party.
Yeah.
I don't hear fucking about Glenn Beck anymore.
No, he's a completely like invisible.
But I don't know. I mean, we're gonna have 2 criminals running for president? Or Ron DeSantis?
So that's the question. Is like
how many criminals get to run?
I mean, Tucker also was, you're right that he maybe got bigger than the network in some ways, because he was commanding actual activity. Like McCarthy got to be speaker because Tucker allowed him to be speaker, and McCarthy made this trade of this 40,000 hours that Tucker was able to get 5 minutes out of. It's like he is directing traffic for the Republican Party from that 8 o'clock slot. He was able to remember when Ted Cruz had to go and grovel.
Oh my God.
To Tucker after he said that Trump caused the January 6th attack.
Like, hey, you want to? I mean, insane.
So then maybe that is the thing. Did the Murdochs finally say, like, okay, this guy thinks he's a little too big for his britches, and we just take him down a peg, or what?
Yeah, I think some of that plays into it. Also, too, I hear old man Murdoch is damn near senile right now and making like the decision.
Well, apparently it was Lachlan that made the decision.
Made this decision, yeah. But like, I mean, I feel like the old man still has to have some type of say in something that's happening that huge. I mean, I think he'll be. He might not disappear. I don't think he might be.
No, I don't think he is. I mean, he came out and he's like, it's amazing when you take a few days off and you can look at it. Dude, it's only been 3 days. Like you haven't had time to reflect on anything. And everybody knows now that everything he does is a fraud, except that the Fox viewers probably don't know that everything he did is a fraud.
And
is that going to come out now?
But think about what he can say. He's like, I'm too real for Fox. Like, that's something crazy that you could come out with and say and be like, they had to can me because the truth, because he claims he's out here telling the truth. You can only get the truth from Tucker Carlson.
Yeah,
right. You can only trust me. Like he might be the despot we really want to watch out because that.
Yeah, but I wonder like how much, like let's say he goes to Newsmax and says, I'm the one that you can trust. Can he rally enough advertising dollars to make it viable? I don't.
Too hard to find.
The case is,
these people know how to get the Fox. I think asking them to get the Newsmax is a step too far.
Well, and also keep in mind, like all of the places he could go are also still facing similar Dominion lawsuits.
Yes,
OAN and Fox and Newsmax are still waiting for their turn to get dragged over the $800 million rack. So. Yeah. Who's got the money? And now, remember, Tucker doesn't need money because he's a Swanson and he's got an infinite amount of money. But, does he run? That's a lot of things people are saying. He's going to run for office or something like that. I mean, how could he? What could he do? He can't do it while Trump's still around. Nobody can run while Trump's still around.
Yo, you see but here, like, could he get he obviously is better at comms than everybody else, light years ahead. Like he could go in there,
except Trump,
but Trump moves like off of the instinct, right? He's just kind of like he's there. He's not by the book. I feel like Tucker Carlson can kind of sit back, observe what's going on, and then start to shift the conversation to wherever he wants, or specifically with that base. And I think that would be like, is he a cult of personality the same way Trump? Probably not, but could he be? I think so.
Well, or he could be like Karl Rove, and just the mastermind and design the thing. But I think the problem is that Karl Rove is a true believer in what he does. Trump is a true believer in himself, which is what he's doing.
Right.
Tucker is shown to be completely squishy. There is nothing that he truly believes in at all. Maybe not even himself. I mean, it's not even clear really what Tucker's core beliefs are.
Right.
It seems pretty malleable to the situation.
Yeah, and I mean, it's clear as day, to your point just a minute ago, that the Republican Party is clear with Donald Trump still, which is it's gonna the fact we're about to have Biden Trump 24 next year. I'm not looking forward to next year. So I am not looking forward to it at all. It's gonna
people keep sleeping on Joey B though. Like,
oh no, but there's no need to think. It should be a landslide because he's going to stand behind the bridge in every one of y'all communities.
Right.
And it's going to be, it's good.
I mean, the chances are that we're going to end up with a very low turnout election, which could give Trump a chance because if you've got two sort of unpopular figures running, but the problem is that Trump is so unpopular with the general voters and he's so goddamn popular with the Republican voters. He's created this trap for them that they can't seem to figure out how to get out of, short of a lightning strike. Pence, was at the grand jury today, testifying, and he's there for all day. Who knows what he said? And who knows what's going to happen? But even if they do indict him and throw him under the jail, for the people who vote that way, it doesn't matter.
They're still going to be on the ballot.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
I mean, if fighting Joe Morrissey can do it, Trump can do it.
Hell yeah, exactly. I mean, and I'm not looking forward to it at all. I know we're getting a little off subject, but also too, what I think we could really be, imagine someone threw this into my ear and I haven't stopped thinking about it. Imagine 28 of, let's just say that Tim Scott ends up being the
against Kamala.
Yes,
We have a black choice and a black choice, and one of them hates black people.
And that was the response to someone. I said, "Well, is that equality?" And we sat in for a little silence, and then they were like, "It would be if the black guy wasn't trying to disenfranchise his own people."
Yeah,
but
I think a matchup between Kamala and Scott would be kind of funny, especially if Harris wins the black vote by an absolute landslide. If she wins, 90% or something like that, it would just prove that Tim Scott is not invited to the cookout. I mean, he's done.
That would be
Speaking of black guys not invited to cookouts anymore, Don Lemon.
Big Don.
So he got fired from CNN basically the same day that Tucker got fired from Fox. And for pretty similar reasons, actually. He had a hostile work environment, and he was
wilding out.
And he was mean to women. And okay, so here's what happens. Lemon gets fired. Everybody's asking, well, why did he get fired? And it's like, well, because he was treating women like shit. He hates women. And then somebody said, well, he's gay. And I'm like, right. And they go, so it's implied that he hates women, right? And I'm like, no, that's not how that works. It doesn't have to be that.
Right.
But Brian reported tonight that apparently Donnie got quite the settlement. He got a $25 million severance for them.
He won. Okay. But Tucker, same way. These people are leaving with big checks.
Yeah, well, Tucker already had a big pile of money.
Yes, and he gets more.
But I don't know that he got. I don't think he got a severance.
I don't think. But you don't. Based on those contracts that they signed, plus he can't. There's a non-compete in there as well too. That's the big thing. That's the reason why these guys don't.
Yeah, but the non-competes are always very, very mushy. Because what's compete?
Right. But
if he writes a book, is he competing? If he goes on a podcast, is he competing? If he gets a show on Beltway Radio and beyond, is he competing? I mean,
you would bring him on in a minute, wouldn't you?
I would let Tucker on this network for sure. At 100%, we'll get all the viewers, and then we'll save all of them one by one, just like that Jesus guy.
Okay, right.
Tune in for the Tucker. Stay for the Chip Chat.
Yeah, there you go.
Beltway Radio and beyond. Sweeps.
Oh my God, we'd be guests every night on that damn show. Yeah, man, you got these wild ass work environments, and you're gonna take the L. I think what's kind of crazy. I seen something today though, because Nikki Haley out here saying that Biden gonna be dead, and
she's also trying to get Disney to move to South Carolina. So
yeah, and
shots fired.
Don Lemon was got some shit too because he had that. Wasn't it about the past your prime?
Yeah, where he got Nikki Haley past her prime because she's okay. Again, Don Lemon is gay. He doesn't really get to weigh in on this at all because he wouldn't know.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I'm not looking at Anderson Cooper and being like, well, he's a little past his prime. Like, I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's it was like Media Black Monday. Felt like
only half black.
Well, half Black Monday, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Look, you can't, and also too, it feels like the new dude over at CNN. I'm blanking on his name right now, but they're moving in a different direction. It seems like as well too. And
I don't watch CNN really. I don't have time for it. But what direction would you say they're moving in?
I think they want to have more both sides kind of like because it didn't back to that day. It seems
Crossfire to be or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, it seems to be that's where they're moving to. I don't really watch CNN either, but that's what from reading on certain things, that's what I've seen. So I don't know.
Do you think Don Lemon is gonna return to television in some fashion, or is he just gonna take his big pile of money and write books and do guest appearances and just never show up again?
I'd say the latter, but I mean, also too, I think you got a presidential election that's coming up, and like you can't keep. Can you keep these folks away from like what they want to? They want their. I feel like TV, right, is a little bit of the vanity business, right, and I think that folks who are on TV like to be on TV and like to be seen, and yeah.
I mean, we like to be on radio. I understand that, but
yeah.
What I'm wondering is like, what is it that Don Lemon does that can't be done by somebody else who's equally as qualified?
No, and it's these spots. I think, like, again, these, like, depending on what time slot that you're in, I feel like that's what makes you, like, the network. None of these folks are bigger than these networks, and these networks will let you know that each time. Don Lemon, definitely. I mean, if Tucker Carlson ain't bigger than Fox, Don Lemon ain't bigger than CNN.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean,
but I think it's also worth pointing out that many of the shows are bigger than Beltway Radio.
Oh my God! Look here, no,
we have some bright stars here on the network.
Look, usually we got 3 people listening and 4 if we have a guest.
Yeah, that's great. We'll take it. All right. Speaking of those numbers, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we are going to have a whole new segment, which is, a special edition of a segment. We do a lot of special editions here on the show. A lot of special editions. So we're gonna come back with this extra special edition. You're listening to Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and beyond. Swoops.
Burn this thing. Bow your knee. Heat. COVID-19. Burn this thing. Bow your knee. Heat. COVID-19. Win. Win. I'll glow. Strong. The wind of God. And you'll never be back. Burn this thing. Bow your knee. Heat. COVID-19. Burn this thing. Bow your knee. Heat.
I'm covered in Jesus' blood. I'm covered in Jesus' blood. I'm covered in Jesus' blood. I'm covered in Jesus' blood.
Burn this thing. Burn this thing. Jesus. Burn this thing. Burn. You fall on your face. In the name of He. You're destroyed forever. I warn you. The wind of God. And you'll never be back. Burn this thing. Bow your knee. Heat. COVID-19. Burn this thing. Bow your knee. Heat. COVID-19. Burn this thing. Bow your knee. Heat. COVID-19. Burn this thing. Bow your knee. Heat.
All right, welcome back to Chip Chat here on Beltway Radio and beyond. I'm your host, Chip. With me is Tez.
Oh, but that's up there too.
He's enjoying.
That is. I was thinking during this. I was like, "Who does he?" I'm sorry, I'm collect myself. Does he say win better than what's her name from Captain Planet? Is it Linka?
Yeah, Linka.
Linka, the girl
from
she's from the Soviet. She's from the Soviet Union.
She's Soviet. Yeah,
that's back when we was. That's back when cartoons was a little different.
She's Soviet. Wheeler is the American kid.
Yeah.
You've got Kwame, who's African, but not specified which part of Africa at all.
Obviously, he has the power of Earth.
Yeah, Earth, right. He has the power of Earth. Then you've got the kid from the Amazon who's got the power of heart. Yeah. And the Asian girl has the power of water, which is, again, it's a little spot on, but
but
we meant well. Come on, it was like
I love that show.
I love Captain Planet. I can sing the song still.
Yes, that's a great.
I'm not going to do it, but
great song.
It's a good show. All right. So now we're going to do a special edition. So this is the Rundown Beer Edition. This is where I tell you about some beer that's going on in the news. All right. And now the first part of this is a segment we're calling Pink Money because it takes place in Europe where their money is pink. And our guest Mike will be joining us very shortly. We've got about 5 minutes worth of beer stories, and then we're gonna bring him on. We're talking about Belgium, which is the gateway to Europe, maybe? I don't know. It's on the coast there. It's where stuff gets shipped in. So here's what happened. Some beer from the United States was shipped to Europe, and it landed in Brussels. And the beer was from Milwaukee. And the beer is called Miller High Life. But Miller High Life is known by its nickname of what, Tez?
The champagne of beers.
Which it has been carrying as part of its brand for like nearly 100 years.
I was
more
gonna
than
say,
100 years.
This is what you know when you get a High Life.
It was shortened to the champagne of beers in 1969. Sorry, it's not quite 100 years of that, but it's been available in champagne style 750s for a long time during the festive seasons and all that stuff. It's been known off and on as the champagne of beers for almost 120 years, according to the company that makes it, which is Molson Coors now, or that's who distributes it, I guess. It's not sold in Europe. Specifically because it can't pass their dumb rules about what they call things. And so somebody who apparently remained nameless in this whole fiasco just basically got it shipped in, tried to get it shipped in, and then somebody noticed it. And the French lost their very Frenchy minds about it. And they're like, how dare you call this champagne?
Oh my God. Can you imagine the chatter back and forth and then someone tasted it and it was like, and spit it everywhere.
So somebody probably brought up to them that it says Miller High Life on it and that it's not champagne. Not
it would be different. Yeah, it would be different if it was like the main thing, like with Miller High Life was champagne or something, but it's not that. Yeah.
Right. So like if you tried to bring California champagne into France, they
cool, get it.
Yeah, but they will flip out. Cool, exactly. That's it.
Get it. I get that.
War.
Yeah.
Now, just side note, if the French declare war on you, don't worry. In a couple of days, they'll surrender. But the important thing is that nobody is going to confuse Miller High Life with actual champagne ever. It's just not going to happen.
Here's my hot take. Miller High Life, better than champagne.
I can drink a lot more of it, that's for sure.
Yeah, doesn't make my stomach hurt.
Yeah, champagne gives you a wicked hangover. Miller High Life, still drunk, no hangover.
Yeah, so there you go.
That's the winner.
Sorry,
shout out to all the dive bars.
Sorry, Bells. I still love you. Don't. We still haven't worked out our sponsor.
We need our sponsorship deal.
But
puts the slur in.
I'm never gonna take it. It adds the slur. It's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good. But
I still saved a little.
There's some people in Michigan that would love that. I could run that like.
Oh yeah, about half of the state loves the idea of Hop Slam causing you to use slurs.
He said it was okay.
Yeah. No. You can't cancel me. I was drinking Hop Slam. It makes you slur. I'm not racist. It's the beer.
And then they go.
All right.
Anyways,
speaking of the Europeans, it's also we want to talk about this. That how do we put this? There was a dust up involving something that people are calling beer, but I'll just call Bud Light. And what happened was that Bud Light hired a influencer to help them sell more beer because they're a capitalist company and their job is to sell as much beer to as many people as possible. Yeah. And so the ad or the marketing execs, the VP, her name is Alyssa Heinerscheid. I hope I got that right. Sounds pretty.
Oh yeah, that sounds
Anheuser-Busch. So anyway, she got this job and she was like, you know who we could sell beer to? Queer people. And they were like, well, how could we do that? How would you ever? And she's like, well, we'll just get some famous queer people to drink our beer on Instagram. And they're like, that's genius. We've never thought of that before. Way to go, Alyssa. And so Alyssa hires this person, what's her name? Dylan Mulvaney. she drinks the beer, and they start selling beer to queer people. And then all of the right wing loses their mind, and they start shooting at the beer and loudly declaring that they never liked Bud Light. They're going to boycott
That's a
Anheuser-Busch.
damn lie. Okay,
And they're switching
lie.
they're boycotting Anheuser-Busch, and they're switching to Busch Light because they don't know how anything works.
What?
And
How? Okay.
yeah, I don't know. There was
Let
a
him
lot
do
of
it.
it.
Let him do it.
Dan Crenshaw posted this picture of him like showing his fridge full of a different Anheuser-Busch product where he said that he was not going to drink Anheuser products anymore. Nobody could see.
When that happens.
He couldn't see from the left side of the fridge what was coming. Never mind. Anyway, Alyssa, the VP who came up with this idea, she got fired. She did, in fact, get fired. Anheuser-Busch was like, nope, you got to go. You caused all this controversy.
You brought us into the culture wars.
Yeah, but,
So dumb. Like, do we not? I thought
they already have Pride stuff on their website.
Exactly.
It's not like she invented this.
I mean, but at this point,
It's just one of those things where heads have to roll in order to like try to restore it.
But it doesn't matter. You like, and also too, I thought we were beyond this. Like, people do a lot like that. She didn't even do anything wrong. People do a lot more shameful things and continue doing what they continue into their
most
job.
Capitalist thing you can possibly do is expand your market and sell more product. That is capitalism.
Dumbfounded. I don't know why. You're stupid.
It was like when record companies learned that black folks also wanted to buy records. They're like, whoa, we should sell records they want to buy. And then they're like, what? How would they know what to buy? Well, hear me out on this. We should record what they're listening to. I know.
That's why we pay you, Mike.
Yeah, right. Brilliant VP. Anyway, that's our rundown beer edition. We have somehow made this show even worse. Since you shouted out Bells, I'm going to shout out our local. Here's Port City. I've got the Panda Haze,
which is very, very tasty.
It is tasty. It's very DC, right? Yeah. Because we've had pandas since Nixon brought them back. Except these are better pandas because the Nixon pandas didn't make any new pandas, and these pandas make much more pandas. Yeah. So they're very effective pandas. Also, great at capitalism despite being Chinese. So,
hey, well, I mean, they're pretty good at it too.
Just saying. Just saying. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a very short break. When we come back, we are going to talk to the man who is the actual reason we're doing the show this week, who happens to know everything about the football team that I still love and that Tez has successfully quit several times, despite the fact that he occasionally unquits it.
Yeah, I like to talk about it. I like to talk sports.
He enjoys the fans. Yes. So we will be right back to talk to Mike Richmond. You are listening to Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and beyond.
Sweeps.
I got big feet. Big feet. I got big feet.
You a Dumbo, I'm the elephant in the room, about to blow like an elephant in the room. Now that's a hell of a visual. What you gonna do? Wise guy, don't imitate the elephant in the room. Elephant in the room. Elephant in the room. Wise guy, don't imitate the elephant in the room. Elephant in the room. Been feeling spaced out like a spaceman in a spacesuit, wearing lace boots on a spacewalk, trying to make do they hate you? You a good girl on a bad date with an old dude with a bad breath of some cold food. In a room of rednecks living soul food, playing Old Town Road saying, damn, that's so shocking, electrified. So old, it's petrified. If you feel it, the truth kills and the blood spills as if you die. Try to fake a smile in an awkward elevator ride, and they're looking in your eye like there's something in your eye.
Hey, bro, I think there's something in your eye.
Stand out like a sore thumb, like a black man in Pakistan in a fit by dapper man, showing off what it is you're lacking in. So hot, you better pack things. You a Dumbo, I'm the elephant in the room, about to blow like an elephant in the room. Now that's a hell of a visual. What you gonna do? Wise guy, don't imitate the elephant in the room. Elephant in the room. Elephant in the room. Wise guy, don't imitate the elephant in the room. Elephant in the room. I'm like Axl Rose meets Axl Foley. Go ask an oldie, go ask the old me, or pass the Tony. Yeah, pass the torch so we can pass the stony. Blast the phony, blast me his glasses, shatter on me. Don't matter, homie. Moving on like an ass to bony. Ask for matrimony, why she asking for me? Why she gassed up on me? Maybe she don't know I'm a bastard, homie. Head for the hills like the master homie.
All right, welcome back to Chip Chat here on Beltway Radio and beyond. I am your host, Chip. With me is Tez.
What's poppin'?
Is that our buddy Roger?
That is our buddy Roger.
That sounds like him. I really like the line about no, never mind. I'm not going to say it, which thing I like about it.
Yes.
But so
No.
that's good
I
record.
mean, no, it was funny. Some like I don't know. I think they do like hip hop maybe out of I don't know, like they cover hip hop. Someone tweeted like some of his old stuff the other day, and I was like, "Yo," and he still got bars.
Yeah,
like out there. I was like,
he's still out there.
He's still out there. So
And successfully almost burned down Toronto. Shout out to Roger and his hockey team. At last I looked, they were up 3-1 in the series against the Bolts. I am personally not a fan of either the Leafs or the Bolts, but for personal reasons, I kind of want Tampa to win that, which it looks like they did win tonight. So they brought the series to a game 6. And so that sucks for one Mr. Richard Chin, who does not get to spend today gloating that the Leafs are through and the Caps are not yet.
oh, okay.
Yet. That may happen. Anyway, okay. Mike Richmond is an unofficial historian of all things Washington football team and knows a ton of details about this stuff. The end of the Snyder era is nearly upon us, and we wanted to take a look back and see what we have learned over the years and talk to Mike about all kinds of stuff about football. So, Mike, welcome to Chip Chat.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me on the show.
There he is.
Hey.
Okay, so great hat, almost as cool as mine.
This guy is insane.
I had to choose, which I've got like various eras of hats, and I thought about getting the my script R out, but I didn't because it's buried under several other hats. So anyway, let's just jump right into the history aspect of this because I do want to know. You probably know this. I think I remember it, but I'm pretty sure I got it wrong. What year did Danny buy the team, and how much did he pay for it when he bought the team?
He bought it in 1999.
I got that right.
Prior to the 99 season, and he paid $800 million for it.
$800 million. I got that wrong. I thought it was $600 million, but okay.
So he wasn't the primary bidder initially.
Okay.
There was another ownership group. Dan Snyder was a minority partner with that group. The guy who was the lead on that was actually the owner at the time of the New York Islanders.
Oh,
okay. And the NFL owners apparently didn't think he had enough equity to finance the team. And so that's why Snyder stepped to the forefront. He took over the majority bidding on that. And that's how he became the majority owner.
And he sold his boat, right? There's some story about selling a boat to get this, although he has a new boat.
Honestly, I don't know anything about that.
Mike,
I don't know that.
Right, we're going into reckless speculation there. But
Mike, we're going to get to some reckless speculation. Don't worry.
Mike, one question I had as well too before we dive too deep. What did the process look like with like the Jack Kent Cooke estate, and how the sale even gets there? Like, were they just kind of like, "Yo, like the old man's gone, we're done with this," or?
I believe Jack Kent Cooke left it to his foundation.
Okay.
And John Kent Cooke, his son, who was actually running the team at the time, did not have enough through the foundation to bid for the team. I think his bid was like in the 500s.
From what I remember, there was some requirement that it sell to the highest bidder to raise the most money for the foundation or something like that.
That's sort of correct. Yes. The bid that John Kent Cooke submitted was like in the 500 millions, or it was way below what the ownership, the Islanders owner, what he was bidding, and then what Snyder bid. So John Kent Cooke was out of the picture at that point, but he was running the daily operations of the team from the time that his father had passed away in 1997. That was basically his team.
Yeah, he ran the team for a couple of years, right?
Yeah, he ran it for a few years, and actually, this is ironic, but in the first season that Snyder owned the team, first official season, 1999, they had their best year under Schneider. 19.
Yeah, and Schottenheimer was the coach, right? And then he fired him the next year.
Schottenheimer wasn't the coach yet.
Oh, okay. He came
North
on
Turner.
after.
North
North
Turner.
Turner
Oh, it was still
a
North.
coach.
That's right. Yeah.
North Turner had been hired to replace Joe Gibbs. To replace Richie Pettibone. He came on in the 94 season. So North Turner was still the coach, and they finished 10-6 that year, and they made the second round of the playoffs. They won the NFC East, and they made the second round of the playoffs. That was the absolute best year under Schneider. That was his very first season.
And that's all been downhill since.
Pretty much, it's been a gradual and sometimes precipitous downhill movement under Schneider. Yes,
2012 was magic.
Yeah,
2012 was a really cool season under RG3.
That was look.
It wasn't just RG because Morris went for 1,000 yards, RG went for 1,000 yards, and Cousins was serviceable. It was a weird thing that happened.
Well, Cousins had that great game that beating the Baltimore Ravens toward the end of the season. That was just a miraculous finish. I think the Redskins trailed by 8 late in the game, and they scored a touchdown. I think Pierre Garcon caught the TD pass, and then Cousins threw the 2-point conversion, and then they had the long punt return in overtime in the overtime period, and then they won on a field goal. So that was beating the Ravens. I have to say, I'm sorry.
No, that's
Ravens
great.
Fan, so beating the Ravens that day was sweet.
Hey,
someone
fine.
who's not on camera is very upset.
Anytime we can take a shot at the Ravens and make Brian sad, that makes us happy.
Brian,
there he is.
Oh no, he's got opinions.
I know my buddy Brian is a Ravens fan as well.
Yes.
He and I have gone at it over the years.
Yes. Keep this in mind. That year, the Ravens went to the Super Bowl.
And they won the Super Bowl, yes.
And won it.
They had in the NFL what you want. They had a very hot finish toward the end. Flacco got hot.
Yeah.
That defense was really, really good. It was not nearly as good as the 2000 Ravens defense.
No,
but it was a good defense.
Good defense, yeah.
They were doing a good job, and Anquan Bolden made Joey Flacco look like an elite quarterback. It's all very, very funny.
They had the Maryland receiver on that team too, right?
Torrey Smith.
Yeah, right.
Yes. He had a great year, and the running back who subsequently gotten had problems later. Ray Rice had a great year. But Brian and I,
between him and Lewis, you wonder if maybe the Ravens were really the Raiders, but that's a whole other question.
Okay.
All right, Ravens have their own say ominous type of record.
Yeah, well, we don't want to talk about it too much because Lewis is still out there. So anyway, Snyder has been the center of a lot of controversy. Some of it is not even related to the team. But I want to, like cutting down trees in front of his yard because he wanted to have like a better view of the river or something. I want to ask about how he really impacted the team. How did we go from selling out 91,000 every week at FedEx to not even being able to fill a stadium that has been reduced to like half the capacity, even with selling a lot of these tickets to out of network, to the opposing team? We're still not able to. I mean, how do you go from that? How do you go from this juggernaut to this also ran?
It's been kind of a snowball effect since Snyder purchased the team. I mean, he's made some really egregious errors. I would say that actually 2 of his worst mistakes came very early in his ownership tenure, charging fans to attend training camp.
Yeah.
And I would say there were three major errors he made during that early period. Charging the fans to attend training camp, which really gave him a bad name. He looked greedy. And then alienating Brad Johnson, quarterback Brad Johnson. He had a great year in 1999. He threw for more than 4,000 yards.
Yeah,
I mean, that could have continued. Alienating him by signing Jeff George in that free agent frenzy, the spending spree in the 2000 offseason, and then firing Marty Schottenheimer. I thought that was a terrible, terrible mistake. So it was just one bad decision after another, and then the subsequent sea of mediocrity that has been a byproduct of that. That has, to answer your question, that has alienated fans over the years. Fans attending the games have been upset. I have to admit, I've never attended a game during the Snyder era as a fan. I've only attended games as a member of the media, so I can't speak to the, talk of outrageous prices and charging.
I can.
I was just like,
Okay.
go.
I can tell you that I had these tickets. I mean, these were good seats. They're on the 50-yard line, section 501 of FedEx. And every year they kept moving down because people were giving up their seats. And I ended up, by the time I quit, I had these like really down at the absolute front row of the upper deck. But the whole fan experience got worse and worse and worse over time. The parking got more expensive. The beers got more expensive. The food started to suck even worse.
Well, those are the things that contributed to the alienation of the fans. And then you throw in, which I think is a much greater factor, is the mediocrity and just horrible seasons. I mean, you throw that in. I mean, Snyder, in the 24 years he's owned the team, he has won 43% of his games. I mean, that's nothing to brag about.
No.
They have 6 playoff appearances and only 2 NFC East titles during that period. So, I mean, it's been that combination. To answer your question, it's been that combination. Fans have been disgruntled over the way they've been treated, and which I personally cannot speak to from personal experiences. But I have seen front and center the just total collapse of the organization. They've had some great years. I mean, when we talk about 2012, I mean, really, I wouldn't call it a great year, but it was a year to remember. And I have to say also, I was not a fan of the RG3 acquisition and the way they went about that.
No, I thought that was all garbage.
Right. I mean, the Eagles got away with it with Carson Wentz. They traded a number, very high draft picks. I don't know how many ones they traded, but in the case of RG3, I don't think the Redskins had the base to trade what they did. And there was a 2 number 1s and then a number 2, if I'm correct. Yeah. I mean, that was a real setback for them. And then RG3 lasted only 1 year. So that was a terrible error that really set the team back in the coming seasons.
It's not just
a Snyder move too, though, right? That's what Snyder would do, right?
It's not just the RG3 lasted a year.
But I just want to touch on that point. And when we say this is a Snyder move, that's a Snyder move, yes, possibly he could have had his fingerprints on it. We don't know. I mean, all of that is speculation. And a lot of that we read and seen and heard about through the media is all speculative. Nobody really knows over the years what happened behind closed doors. Yeah, you could say something like, well, Snyder presided over the team during the acquisition of, bringing Albert Haynesworth aboard. That looked like a Snyder offseason Super Bowl move, bring Albert Haynesworth in, best defensive tackle in the game, supposedly, and you're going to win the Super Bowl. Ankle. That seemed like Snyder's way of thinking at the time, and it turned out to be just a terrible, terrible move. In terms of RG3, I don't know. Snyder could have had his fingerprints on it. I don't know. I think one ridiculous story we've heard over the years is that Dwayne Haskins, take him for example, okay? So when the Redskins drafted him in 2018, I believe it was, 18 or 19. So the story basically through the media was, it was a Snyder-led acquisition because Dwayne Haskins played at Bullis Prep in Potomac, and Snyder's son went to Bullis. I don't know. To me, that sounds ridiculous. It's just I can't see that happening. Anybody in their right mind wanting to acquire a NFL quarterback to lead you to the Super Bowl and then basing it on where their son went to high school.
Well, I can tell you what happened with Dwayne Haskins, which I will tell you in a second, but because I happen to know the answer to that. But the thing with RG and why there's this story about Shanahan wanting to take him out and RG having this connection with Snyder that he calls up from the sidelines. He calls Danny and says, Danny, Shanny's taking me out of the game. And Danny calls down to Shanny and says, put him back in the game. Speculation, but it does seem like a thing that
you're actually the first person who I never heard that story before.
Really? Okay.
I had never heard that RG3 picked up the phone on the sidelines and called up to. That sounds like something like George Preston Marshall did in past years. Called up to his coach, back in the 1940s. I can't see that happening at the time. I don't know if you could blame that on the doctor. on Shanahan, on RG3. If anything, it could have been RG3 saying to himself and to his teammates and to his coach, I want the chance to lead
Well, I
this
believe
team to
he
victory.
wanted to go back in. I have no doubt in my mind.
He wanted, whether it was his ego or what, he wanted to be the hero of that game and lead his team to victory despite the fact he was injured. Who really knew the seriousness of the injury at the time, which was worsened later in the game, obviously, when he fumbled by the goal line and totally collapsed, and we saw how bad the injury was at the time. Did the doctor really know in the first half how bad the injury was? I mean, all of that is speculation. Nobody will really know what happened. But in terms of that story, calling up to Snyder from the sidelines, I'm sorry.
Doesn't it seem weird, the closeness, the relationship between RG3 and Dan Snyder?
Weird. Maybe it was a matter of an owner getting too close to his player. I mean, I guess they did go to the Kentucky Derby together, and they were involved in other personal affairs. So,
I mean, like, he's a super fan, right? That's what he is, right? Like,
I'm a super fan.
No,
I
no,
would
no,
know better if I own the team, which God willing will happen one day. I would know to hire Scott McLuhan and then go back to my suite and watch the game. And
that was another bad move.
beer.
They were Scott McLuhan, but despite his own personal issues, I thought Scott McLuhan made some good personnel moves.
Of course he did. He was the right guy for the job. So, like, I would know to stay the hell away from managing the team and just go enjoy being a fan and, like, you know, live my life the way I've been living it and just also get the money. But here's the thing. You want to know what happened to Dwayne Haskins? I have an inside scoop on this. So Dwayne Haskins is a local kid. He's an all-star talent, absolutely one of the best in the country, no question about it. Smart, effective quarterback, by all accounts, great student, great kid. Everybody likes him. Okay, then he goes to Ohio. And when you go to Ohio, bad stuff happens because Ohio is the worst place on the planet. And they warped his brain and they injured him and broke him and sent him back to us, a broken version of Dwayne Haskins. If he had gone to a decent place, like, say, Ann Arbor, he would have come back here in great shape, and probably we would have been to the Super Bowl by now.
Sorry, Mike. We every week.
You sound superstitious and thinking Ohio is the place of bad luck. Listen, you know, by the way, you know who Haskins replaced at Ohio State was the Bengals quarterback who later he transferred to LSU.
Joe Burrow, who went down to LSU. Yeah,
right,
no, I remember all of that.
So,
I've had to forgive him several times for that bad decision when I decided to root for the Bengals in the Super Bowl. But it's look, Ohio's a bad place.
Now that's bad luck. That's bad luck in itself.
It takes
Losing
a really
Burrow
special person
and having
like Chase Young, for example, who is even more special than Dwayne Haskins, that he was able to leave DC, go to Ohio, survive his time at Ohio, and come back still with his head screwed on straight and still able to keep his marbles. That's impressive, I gotta say.
Okay. By the way, I'm hoping that Chase Young has a breakout or another breakout year in this coming season. You know, by the way, the Redskins didn't pick up his fifth-year option,
right, I saw that, yeah.
So he's got to have a great year this year.
You better hurry up.
I hope he's during the course of the season, if it's possible, or even like right after the season, if he has a great year, that Washington does re-sign him. I love Chase Young. I actually think in the 3 games he played in last year, he looked pretty good. I mean, somebody coming off that horrific type of knee injury.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I do like him. So look, I can redeem Ohio people. You know, like, never mind. Too far down that rabbit hole. So, Mike, speaking of Snyder and the fan experience, do you remember the thing about the paying, having to hire these Metro buses to cross the street? Do you remember that?
Vaguely. Again, that's a fan thing. I vague in my mind. I mean, it's something that I probably read in the newspaper or heard through another fan.
All right, well, we'll skip that then.
Mike, all right, Mike. Well, here's what. As in covering the team, like, what's your top 3? What's your top 3 moments? We'll go 3, 2, 1. What's the top 3 moments of covering the team?
That's a very good question. Personally, I'd have to say the late run in 2005.
Okay.
They won their last 5 regular season games.
Yep.
I mean, they looked like they were out of it. I believe they were
That's a
5
good
and 6 at one point. They won the last 5 games, finishing 10 and 6 that year, and then going to the second round of the playoffs. That run was really, really nice to watch. It was, I remember the win over, I believe it was the win over Dallas, which was around Christmas time, or it may have been a win over the Giants the following week, which that may have been around Christmas time. One of the players dressed up in the locker room as Santa Claus, and he actually called himself Santana Claus.
Yes. Oh,
Santana Moss.
Oh God, I forgot
Santana
all about
Moss had a great game against the Giants that day. He also had a great game the previous week against the Cowboys, and so did Cooley. But that run was number one, I'd say.
That was a great cohort, when it was like Portis and Moss and Cooley, and there was so much potential there. I really enjoyed that time of the players.
Did we lose? We lost that trade though. I'm saying we again. Oh my God!
Yes,
The Washington football team lost that trade with the Champ Bailey and letting him go there, right? Because
I guess you could say that. I mean, a Hall of Fame cornerback, and cornerbacks are really good. Cornerbacks are hard to come by in the NFL. They got Clint Portis.
Portis was good. Portis was really good.
I thought where Washington lost
federal inmate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at the moment, but yeah.
What's that?
Portis is in federal prison or was convicted.
Yes, okay.
Which again is stupid because he made millions of dollars. He did not need to steal $500,000 to do God knows what from old people in Florida. Right. Bad move, Coach Shake.
I know he did something fraudulent. But Portis had some great years, 1,000-yard seasons. 2008, I believe he had like a 1,400-yard season.
Yeah.
He set the all-time single-season Redskins rushing record. But where Washington lost in that trade, I believe, is they included a second-round pick to Denver, Denver drafted a really good running back. I forgot his name, but he was a good running back in
Terrell Davis.
No,
it was not Terrell Davis. There was another good running back they drafted around that time.
God, who is? Yes, you're complete. I'm blanking on who that was on that. Damn. But
Tim Tebow.
Oh God, he should have been. He's better running back than quarterback. But anyway, that's a different.
I'd also say, in answer to your question, Tez, 2012 was really sweet as well. I mean, that was another late season run under RG3, and that was a season. I mean, Robert Griffin. I mean, defenses were not ready for what the schemes that the Shanahans devised for Robert Griffin. If he hadn't had that injury in the playoffs, first of all, he had the injury, in the regular season. Then he aggravated.
That behemoth in Baltimore destroyed him. I forgot. Yeah. Who was he? That what was
Ed Reed that hit him?
No, it was the big guy on the line.
It was
what is his name?
Samoan guy.
Oh, there we go. That's there. I was waiting for you, Brian. There it is.
He's your Hall of Famer.
Now look at him smiling at this. That he destroyed his knee.
Right. Yeah. That was an RG3. That was a reckless run, you could say. Yeah, that was RG3 being RG3. I mean, he had the mobility, but he would just give his body up, and I think that obviously hurt him in the end, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, it's true.
But that 2012 run was really nice. And I would also say, to add top 3 package, I'd say the 99 season, that run toward the end, or the ability to win the NFC East that year and then go to the second round of the playoffs. That was really, really nice. And players from that team will tell you today that if they hadn't done that free agent spending spree in the 2000 offseason, bring in Deion Sanders and Bruce Smith and Jeff George and Mark Carrier, disrupting the chemistry on the team, that team probably would have continued with the motivation and momentum it had and continued on in ensuing seasons and done really well. So
this is one of the things that I people are like, why don't you like Neon Deion? I'm like, this is one of the reasons why. Like, he came in, I'm wearing the Sean Taylor 21 that he had to wear the 36 because freaking Deion was it. Like, why? People are like, oh, he's great. He's okay. That's fine. Now people are like, oh, he's an old man and he's a coach and they like him.
Tread lightly
what he did.
Deion
he was a shithead.
But he's an incredible corner.
He's an incredible athlete, an incredible corner, an incredible baseball player too. No question about that. but like he was bad for the team.
He was, but
Tim McCarver didn't like him.
No.
I mean, it was that not that felt that season though also felt like what we would call the quote unquote Snyder move. It felt like the
that
fan.
I think
Yeah, buy
had
Bruce
Snyder's
Smith for $1
fingerprints on it.
million. Yeah, that
Didn't we
the-
have
bring-
Dana Stubblefield too?
yeah.
They
Come on.
had well, he was already on the roster.
Oh,
he was on the roster from the '99.
99.
Actually, they had really good defensive line. They had Dana Stubblefield, previously
Big
the NFL Defensive Player of the Year, and they had Dan Wilkinson.
Wilkinson, that's who it was.
Right,
Yeah.
and they had
Dan
Champ
Wilkinson.
Daly, who really came on that season. I think wasn't he NFL Rookie of the Year and maybe NFC Rookie of the Year?
Yeah.
Darryl Green taught Champ
Is still
Bailey how to be a better
exactly,
player.
Yeah.
I interviewed Darryl Green in that preseason about Champ Bailey, and I remember Darryl Green said, "Hey, you know the kid's pretty smart," in reference to Champ Bailey. Yeah, he said that. I mean, he really thought highly of him. And Champ Bailey came on that year. Sam Shade, who was a pretty good safety. They had but the offense was good too. They had Brad Johnson at quarterback. They had decent offensive line. They had Larry Centers, running back, wing back, who they got. He was really good. Michael Westbrook, receiver.
Yes.
Albert Connell, another really good receiver.
Pre-injury Michael Westbrook, former Colorado great who defeated Michigan in that Hail Mary catch that I'll probably never forgive him for.
Right. I watched a little bit of the 30 for 30 by the way on that Colorado team just a few days ago.
Yeah.
But
who
Michael
coaches
Westbrook,
Colorado? It's like,
what's
I
that?
have a lot of feeling. Shut up. We're not talking about Deion.
But Michael Westbrook had a really good year in '99. What I'm saying is they had the nucleus of a really solid team to go on in the ensuing years, and probably maybe they could have advanced in 2000. But if you ask players from that '99 team about those acquisitions in the offseason, they'll say that disrupted the chemistry on the team, and but I think they had the makings of a good team in later years. And actually, the Charlie Casserly orchestrated that '99 team. I mean, he was the lead GM before Snyder fired him, and prior to the '99 season starting. And Snyder said in later years that he fired the wrong guy. He fired. He should have fired Norv Turner at the time instead of Casserly, but that's neither here nor there. I don't know what's right or wrong.
You can't say. We understand. All right, we want to take a break, but before we go to break, and we will bring you back because I got a whole bunch more questions, but I have one more important question to ask, which is there is this story about the song and the lyrics of the song and the ownership of the song being how the Cowboys entered the league, essentially. That there was, somebody owned the rights, or they bought the rights from the band leader and forced Marshall to allow the Cowboys in. So I want to know, did the band as it stands now, which is a diminished band, it is not, the band that we're all used to, did they play a part in the sale this time in the same way that the Cowboys? Is there some deal where we're going to get the band back together?
I do not know. Wait, you were asking a couple questions there. So about the song, you want to know about the song?
Well, I know that story about how the band leader sold the rights to the song to the guys who wanted to make the Cowboys, and they told Marshall that if he ever wanted to play his song again, they'd have to pay. Even though his wife wrote the lyrics, and it's a blah blah blah.
The president of the Cowboys, I think his name was Clint Murchison.
Yeah,
he said he somehow gained the rights to that song through Breeskin, who I think was the band leader at the Shore Motel. He wrote the music. He wrote the music for that song. So yeah,
he wrote the music. Marshall's wife wrote the lyrics.
The lyrics, right? And so Murchison had gained the rights to that song through Breeskin, and he gave Marshall that ultimatum. And now, in terms of the present day band, is that what you're asking?
Yes, I want to know is the band the thing that finally pried the team loose from Dan Snyder's hands?
It's a joke. I guess this is a joke. Sorry, Mike. Look,
this is a comedy show. That's why I'm laughing.
I guess so. Loosely, nominally. I don't know if it's a comedy. He's stretching it. Thank you so much. That is the question you asked.
So yeah, it's a good question. I want to know if the band turned out to save us from Dan Snyder. Wouldn't that be a great story?
Yeah. I mean,
no. The thing I'm trying to caution everybody, and including you, Chip, about Dan Snyder. First of all, by the way, deal has not gone officially.
I
through,
know.
as you know,
It's
it
true.
has not been signed off on by the NFL. They're still evaluating it, and
They're waiting for our bid, obviously. That's
Yeah, of course.
so what I'm saying is I'm trying to caution everybody about, I mean, this narrative that, okay, new ownership group is coming in, we're going to win the Super Bowl in a season or two. Please, I mean, let's hold off on that a little bit. I mean, your ownership group doesn't necessarily determine how good a team is. I mean, can have somewhat of a bearing. I mean, the owner in Philadelphia has certainly presided over some really, really good teams.
Sure.
So you could say, you know, he's had a hand in the success of the Eagles. So I mean, you could give him credit. You could give Kraft credit for the success of the Patriots over the years. Although with the departure of Brady, they haven't had that success. So what do you say now? Kraft is at fault for the
No, I get all that, and
mediocrity?
I'm not ready to win the Super Bowl next year just because like it's. But there are very few people on the planet, like individual human beings, who I dislike more than Dan Snyder. He is a bad man. He is. I know you can't agree with this, but he has personally made my life harder through his actions. Making me pay for a bus to cross the street is an outrageous thing to do, and that it wasn't even his buses. He had Metro do it. Like,
do you still have tickets today? Do you go to games today?
I gave them up. I'm not going anymore. But I'm going to show you some stuff when we get back on.
Because I don't think he does. I doubt that he does that anymore.
Oh no. He undid that. What happened was he convinced Prince George's County Council to pass an ordinance making it illegal to have a pedestrian walkway that crossed a street that was 4 lanes wide with a divided median, which is exactly what the street from the Metro stop at Garrett Morgan to the stadium is. And so then he worked it out so that people could pay him $5 to ride a Metro bus specifically set up for game days from the station across the street to the other side of the street. And then you could walk the rest of the way to the stadium. And on the way back, you had to show them your voucher or you would get arrested crossing the street.
So how long was the Metro bus ride, just if it's across the street?
A good 35 seconds.
And he was charging for that?
He was charging for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you had to get a little voucher or you couldn't get back.
Not to defend him for what he did back then. I doubt he's doing anything like that today. And,
no, they since overturned that and reconfigured the situation, and now everybody can walk from the Metro. But the point is that, like, even the idea that you would do such a thing, that you would cause an ordinance to pass to then extort your own fans, is so below.
I said before, he made egregious decisions in terms of how he treated the fans. The very first one was charging the fans for training camp, and then there was just one after another. They mounted, and it was just really, really bad business decisions on his part. That is what in large part influenced the alienation of the fans. Then of course you have the mediocrity on the field. I mean, the fact that they have not been able to generate any momentum over consecutive seasons.
And it's not just the problems on the field. It's the problems in the front office. It's these sex scandals. It's these abuse scandals. It's this stuff with the cheerleaders. It's just cascade after cascade of stuff. And whether it was other people doing it, it's all under his watch. And ultimately the buck stops there. So like what Dan Snyder has done to a team that really has pulled me through in really dark parts of my life. The way I feel about this team is so integral to my identity, and what he has done to it hurts me personally. So to see him go under any circumstances makes me joyful. I don't care whether it's Magic Johnson that saves us or whether it's, any of these other situations, whatever it is. If Dan Snyder could get on his boat, name the lady S, of course, or on one of his 2 jets that you can track on Twitter, and could fly to like the deepest depths of the Alps and never come out of the valley.
Your antipathy for Dan Snyder comes through loud and
Duly
clear.
noted. Yes.
My ears are bleeding.
Should an avalanche destroy him in Switzerland, I could not be brought to a tear.
Now I'm going to give you a little different perspective on Dan Snyder. Okay, number one, I can criticize him all day in terms of the the personnel moves that have happened on his watch, as well as the fan decisions that I've heard about and that you're telling me about, you're elaborating on right now. I've heard about them and I've read about them. So, I mean, I can criticize him for things like that. I can criticize him for the horrible decisions that have happened while he's on the team that have led to their demise. At the same time, and I have to, this is an admission on my part, he indirectly led to my rise in the literary world as well as and journalism. I mean, when he bought the team in 1999, there was room for me to get my foot in the door of the organization as a freelance writer. I wrote for their publications. I wrote their media guides in 2000, 2001, all of the content for that. They had a deal with Sports Illustrated. It was a collaboration from like 2001 through 2007 or something like that. I wrote inserts on Redskins history, different aspects of Redskins history that appeared in those inserts, that appeared in Sports Illustrated. I mean, I have to indirectly credit Dan Snyder for that. I mean, but at the same time, I can criticize him for just everything that has gone wrong on the field. I mean, I have no trouble doing that.
That he didn't provide opportunities for lots of people. Sally Jenkins made an entire career calling him names in the paper every week. Like there's lots of opportunity that somebody can provide, even when he's in a sort of a larger context causing problems. I'm not saying that lots of good people probably got their start and built a career because of stuff that Dan Snyder did. I have no doubt in my mind about that. Hundreds of people working in facilities, hundreds of people working in food service. I'm sure of all of that. That's not the issue. The issue is what he did to me personally, which is he wrecked my team. And I am not going to forgive him for that. And I can't wait for him to be gone.
Well, they are my team too, Chip.
Mike, well,
yeah, I understand
I grew up a diehard Redskins fan.
Me too.
I grew up with okay, but I go back.
You got a few years on me. I'll give you that.
Okay, I go back. Way before you. And I grew up with the George Allen Redskins. I watched closely the Joe Gibbs 1 era, so I know what winning is all about. And it has really hurt me what has happened over the past 2 decades since Snyder was on the team. And I think this needs to be put in proper context as well. When Joe Gibbs left after the 92 season, the Redskins had a 4-12 year under Pettibone. They had then North Turner comes on. They had I think they were 3-13 or something one year. Then they were 6-10. Then they 9-7 and whatever. I mean, until the 99 season, they were having some really bad years following the Joe Gibbs 1 era. So we got to put this in proper context as well. It wasn't only starting from the time that Dan Snyder bought the team.
I understand that, but
and I didn't hear you complaining after Joe Gibbs left.
I had those like Doug Williams, we need you shirts. Like I was wearing bring back Doug Williams, bring back the Hogs kind of. Like I had all that stuff. I was wearing it. I was in high school. What was I going to do? I couldn't buy the team then, but it's a problem where. I felt aggrieved then too, but I didn't feel aggrieved in the same way because it wasn't a long-term sustained, like weekly kick in the balls. Every week is just, I feel like, and I don't like the guy. That's what I'm saying. I don't like the guy.
But how did you feel though when they made those nice runs and they made the playoffs several years? I mean, did you all of a sudden be, really?
No, I did a series of mental gymnastics where I was able to credit the people around Snyder, but not let him get any of the credit. That's exactly what I did. Because I couldn't do that. Why not?
I can't do anything to try and
anyway, so we're going to take this out. We're going to take this out of the Chip grievance show, and we'll bring this a little more macro. Like, one thing that I found, and I quit the team. I can't, whatever. That narcotic, I was very invested in this team. And for me, it was easier just to step away and just in general. But one thing that I understand is that this fan base might be top 3 and not 3 if we think about just what a Monday looked like in this city when this team won or lost. Like whether you're on the bus, whether you're standing on, just the conversation around that team, it felt different. I really enjoyed that. And in the sense of identity, I completely get. Like that type of like apathy that we had, like the fan base has now. Like, how long does that, like, new ownership isn't just going to switch it, right? Winning is going to change this, but like, how long is this? Like, I was going to say, do you think we'll have another earthquake in this area before this team goes to the Super Bowl? That's how I like my question. Actually, just simplify. Like, will we have an earthquake, or will we go to the Super Bowl before?
To try and answer your question as simply as I can,
Yeah.
I think winning any type of consistent winning, several over the course of several seasons, the fans will come back. I think it's going to be, you're going to see like the awakening of a sleeping giant in the Washington area. There are still so many fans of that franchise, and I had trouble calling them by their current nickname because they could have chosen something a little different. But
Washington
hopefully that will
football
happen under the new ownership group. But
more jerseys.
It's like there's so many fans of that franchise that still exist in that area and that are longing for a consistent winning streak on their part, and they want to see them advance and make a Super Bowl run and do it over several seasons. Maybe be like the Kansas City Chiefs in some way, or even say the Ravens. Being that consistent winner year after year, even if you're not making it like deep playoff run, but still making the playoffs, and then having that coming out of nowhere like one season like 2012 winning a Super Bowl. And to their credit, the Ravens having won 2 Super Bowls, being such a young franchise. I mean, I can see why a lot of fans in the Baltimore area, many of whom I would safely say would never root for the Ravens after the Colts moved out, and would never root for another football team after the Colts moved out. But then when they got on the bandwagon, when the Ravens won that Super Bowl in 2000, and then in later years, they had great years under starting Flacco when he arrived in 2008. Then they won a Super Bowl in 2012. Those fans are on the bandwagon now. But I would safely say, and I would bet many of those same fans said after the Colts moved out in '84, they would never again root for a football team.
But see, it's that kind of consistent success. Like they're talking about like basically a decade between Super Bowl. If you can win Super Bowls every decade, you've got this fan base cemented for forever. And if you think about somebody like me who lived through all 3 Super Bowls of Redskins history, and like that is why I am so aggrieved by it. There are people who are fans of teams that are bad teams, that have been a bad team for several decades, and they are fans of the team, but they're used to that apathy. And here I am. Yeah, Cleveland's a good example. The Jets are a good example. But like I'm here looking at a 25-year run of failure where the first 25 years of my life are programmed to success. And so in my mind, this is a problem. That we can have a few down years here and there, but we're supposed to win.
But you can't be more aggrieved than Mike. You can't be more aggrieved than Mike. That's what the moral of this story is. You can't be more aggrieved.
That's what I was trying to explain to you. I go back.
Fair. You should be as mad as I am.
Were you old? You were old enough to follow the Joe Gibbs 1 era. You remember that whole era?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, okay, fine. So you remember that. I remember, before that, George Allen. But the subject of my next book, by the way.
Yeah,
by
we're
the way,
talk about that.
Chip, here's what I'm going to do for you. You have given me enough fuel to want to write another book, and I think I'm going to write it about your saga in terms of the troubles you've experienced over the years. I think it's going to be a bestseller, being on New York Times bestseller list. I think we got a winner there.
I got to tell you, I got a lot of material. You can be ready to get your tape recorder out.
Oh my God!
Can I also say that I know of some fans that are not nearly as aggrieved as you are, and actually have had some very good experiences one-on-one with Dan Snyder. Would you believe me if I said that?
I'm sure there are dozens of them.
I'm unofficially part of a tailgate at FedEx. And they tailgate right across the street from the store. And I've never heard anyone in that tailgate say anything bad about Dan Snyder. And
come out to the green lots and see what we're all saying out there. I'll tell you, it's a totally different story.
What's the number in the green lot?
A62. That's where I used to stand.
I'll be out there next season. But you're not going anymore.
I don't have my seats anymore. But we used to park right there by A62. There's a good couple of porta potties.
But this tailgate, they're members of. There's one in particular. She told me the story. She saw Dan Snyder at some type of function. He was very nice to her, very respectful, cordial. So not everybody has this like total, sheer hatred of him. Now, again, I know he's made mistakes over the years. I also think it's been compounded by a lot of things we've read in the media. A lot of this stuff has been media driven. Okay, this speculative stuff about him, and but you have personal experiences, so I respect that.
So let me ask you this: what's going to happen to the team? Are we changing colors or names, or what's going to happen here?
I don't know about the colors, but God, I mean, I think
Can't change the colors.
I think it'd be so nice if they brought back the name Redskins. I know that there are people that, and I think they're mostly outside the Redskins community that are opposed to that name. I think the Redskins fan base, they pretty much know that it's always been used as a sports name and that it's never been meant to offend Native Americans in any way. There's never been anything racist about the use of the name in terms of the team itself. But I know what you're thinking. In other circumstances, that it has a negative connotation to it. The old Western movies, it was used in a very disparaging way. It was very insulting toward Native Americans. I'm going to scalp a redskin. And even prior to that, back in the Wild West, back in the 1800s, it was used in a very disparaging way toward Native Americans. So yes, that in that context, correct. If they brought back that name, though, as part of the team, I would be fine with it. If not, maybe switch to something like Red Hogs, something to connect with the past, something to keep red. And then
so that's my two questions, and I'm going to ask you, and I've asked several people about this, but you're the most expert that I'm going to ask. So here's the first question: would it be okay if we kept the old name but changed the logo to the potato instead? So we could be the Redskins with the potato.
I read this earlier, and I just.
I'm trying to get the joke.
It's a Redskin potato. It's okay.
Oh, Redskins, right? Okay.
The other thing is, I have said for years, going back 20 years when they first started talking about changing the name, we should be called the Pigskins, because then we can still be the Skins. We've got this connection with the Hogs. We've got pigskin as football. This is a great idea. Do you think we should be called the Pigskins?
Personally, I don't think so. No.
All right, Mike. It's been great having you on. See you later. Bye. No.
Oh my God.
No, I think Red Hogs would be a great one, and I have to credit Fred Smoot for this. He liked what was it, the red wave? What was it? So when they score, the wave.
You do the wave
that would emanate throughout the stadium.
Isn't the red wave what happened at the Capitol on January 6th?
Yeah, right.
So he liked that one. So it's anything with, like, if they could still keep it. I don't know if somebody would find that offensive, but I think that would be first. It would be great if they brought back Redskins. I don't think they can do it. I think
no way. It's not a chip. No way.
It'd be way too controversial. But something like Red Hogs or just.
I don't mind Red Hogs. I'm kind of in with that. You don't think Arkansas would get a little mad about that?
Nah.
What are they? The Hogs now?
They're the Razorbacks, and they're red, and they
the
call themselves the Hogs.
Right?
Yeah. Speaking of mascots that are Hogs, though, what's up with this awful Tootie something or other stupid mascot that they brought out last year? That looks like like a caricature of a cop with a bad jersey on. What is this thing?
I don't know. It's just some things are mind-boggling that they've done in recent years. So, yeah, I can't explain it. I don't know what's up with that. It's just
good answer.
This is bad. I Major Tutty.
Yeah, that's awful. Don't give him his rank. I hate it.
Major Tutty. Oh God.
But they kept basically the team colors. I mean, they've kept the colors and. I to tell you the truth, prior to the introduction of Commanders, I liked Washington football team.
Me too. We're all cool with it.
I really like that name. There's a uniqueness about it. No other professional sports team has that type of name. In the four major pro sports leagues, nobody has that name. Just the name of the city.
So good.
And then you don't hear like the New York basketball team or anything like that.
It was so good.
I liked Washington football team, and I think it was kind of a way of sticking it to the people, who wanted them to change their name because they opposed the name Redskins. For me personally, that's the way I thought. Okay, because I was against the name change because, again, I grew up with the name Redskins. To me, it was never offensive in any way. It was only a sports team nickname, and so I think just keeping Washington football team would have been great.
I like the Washington football team not only because it is unique and it's sort of, Tez and I are both soccer guys, so it has that kind of feel to it. But also, I like that that the initials worked for when they had a bad game and can be like, well, what happened with the what the fucks this week? And you could just switch the WFT for the WTF and just call it a typo and be like, oh no, sorry, did you watch the what the fucks game?
That's a
Added
possible.
bonus.
Look, Mike, I'm sorry.
There was also a weird acronym they had for the the philanthropic group they created for the Native Americans a few years ago.
It was not good.
It was,
Oh God!
It was a bad acronym.
No, and it spelled out something bad, which we're not going to say on the air.
But
all right, so the last two questions. One, what are we doing to get the band back? Because I think that is one of the most unique things about the Washington team that we have a band and it plays we have a fight song. It's a very college thing that doesn't exist anywhere else in the NFL.
you are fixated on this band, aren't you?
I love the band. The band is great.
I can tell you from a historical standpoint, the Redskins were the first team in the league to have a true marching band. So in terms of getting it back, I don't know. I mean, don't they have a few? They have a few members.
They're down to like a dozen musicians or something.
So they have sort of a band right now that's playing the fight song, right?
Kinda.
Will they have the number of band members that they had in the past? I don't know. I mean,
if they start winning, do you think people will volunteer to be in the band again?
I got a buddy who's he's on the athletic app Strava. Who he's a band member. We follow each other on Strava. He's a band member. Or he wasn't, I guess, in the former band. I don't think he's doing it right now.
Mike,
there you go.
Mike, I know you're working on the book, right? And it's supposed to come out in October.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. What's up with the book?
But one question I had around it is writing is being a writer just in general alone. Do you find it lonely? Is it a lonely process for you?
You could actually say that it's really a grind. I mean, and that you could equate with loneliness. It's really you're on your own. And I mean, this latest book and all of them have been my own project. I didn't co-author with anybody, but you're on your own, and you just gotta push and have the mental fortitude to get through the process. I mean, it can be really tough. I mean, the George Allen book, the biography that I've just written, and the one that's coming out in October. I mean, there were times when I thought about, hey, this is going to be a really, really tedious thing to do. And, maybe I was kind of thinking of giving up, but then I said, who else is going to write this? Right. It's my responsibility to do it. And so, I finished it, but I think it's really that mental fortitude and that, it's a lot of it is a psychological thing, but then of course you need journalistic and writing skills as well.
Sure.
So, which I've built over the years.
Is there a chapter in your new book about how his son was such a jerk?
Christ.
The only thing I'll say about Bruce Allen is, and the entire Allen family, they were a tremendous help in the writing of this book.
I'm sure.
They gave me unfettered access to the George Allen archives at the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Wow.
They were there for me, phone interviews, multiple phone interviews with George Allen, the son, and I had several phone interviews with Bruce Allen too. He was great. I mean, with Bruce Allen, I think I had like 2-hour phone interviews. We went through a myriad of topics that covered George Allen's life and football coaching career and so forth. So,
well, I say that as a Virginia resident, it's one thing with George, but also like I had a lot of hope pinned to Bruce. Like when Bruce Allen came to the team, my mind connected. Okay, there's an Allen on this somehow. This is going to get fixed. Now we've got somebody who knows something about this team and how to make this team win. And like, he's got to have learned something from his father. And I wanted that to be the like silver bullet. And then it just, not only did it turn out that it wasn't, but it turned out that all of this stuff with the emails and all this other kind of thing, it was like kind of the undoing of the team. And that was very unfortunate. I felt really like betrayed by that. I wanted Bruce Allen to be the success.
Oh, we all wanted him to be successful, and we wanted him to carry on the legacy of his father, albeit in a general manager or executive role.
Sure, but I wanted him to create winning.
Right. Well, they did. I gotta say this again. They did have 2 playoff seasons under him, which again is nothing to really brag about. In over I guess a 10-year period, 2 playoff seasons, 2012, 2015. You could also say that. Maybe he would have stayed on after the 2019 season. I don't know. I think he was fired. Wasn't it right after this season? But Rivera may have had a say in that. Maybe he was saying, I'll only come on board.
Well, I think the emails and all of that. And
that could probably contributed to it. Yeah, there was a lot of controversy with him. But he brought in some really good defensive linemen. I mean, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne.
Yeah.
Montez Sweat. Montez Sweat, by the way, that was a move where the Redskins dipped back into the first round to get that pick to draft Montez Sweat, who, in my opinion, is a really, really good defensive end.
Absolutely.
They better find a way to re-sign him after this coming season.
Well, they spent all the money on Payne. I didn't know if they've got any money left.
I don't know if they can do this. I'd love for them. Chase Young would have to have the really great season this coming year, but I'd love for them to bring both Chase Young and Montez Sweat back. I mean, that defensive line with those 4 guys healthy and running on all cylinders.
Terrifying line.
Arguably the best defensive line in the game. I mean, Jonathan
absolutely.
Allen, he had some great. He had a Pro Bowl year last season, and Payne, he had a Pro Bowl year too, didn't he?
Allen, Payne, Sweat, and Young are like the best front 4 you could possibly ask for in the post Rax and Kerrigan kind of like era, which was also like, and having Kerrigan being the defensive line coach now is like makes, that feels really good too. Like there's a lot of hope here. I just want it to work.
But that defensive line was a Bruce Allen doing. Now, with that said, and this is the theory that I approach these types of conversations with, personnel. I mean, if you're going to credit somebody for personnel, you can't necessarily credit them for the success of an ensuing coaching regime.
Right.
Okay. That's what I believe. Right.
I grant you that. Absolutely.
Okay. So if the Redskins were to be successful with these guys on the roster in the, the Rivera era or, the next coach or whatever, and these guys are still on the roster, you can't credit Bruce Allen necessarily for that, but he did have his fingerprints on their acquisition.
I think it's.
I just wanted to put that in proper perspective.
But that's a fair, good journalistic integrity, Mike. We appreciate that on this show.
Thank you very much, Chip. I'm just trying to. I'm. That's why my answers to a lot of your questions, I'm trying to see it down the middle of the road. Okay?
We understand, and like Fox News, we also hold ourselves to the highest journalistic standards around here. We understand, just not 800 million of it.
I miss Vinny.
Yeah,
just joking.
That was another bad, supposedly another bad Snyder move. See, bringing back Vinny Serrato, Schottenheimer got rid of Vinny Serrato.
Yeah,
right.
And then when Snyder fired Schottenheimer, he brought back Vinny Serrato, and he brought in Spurrier.
Yeah.
Okay?
The old ball coach.
The old ball coach. Wing it, throw 50 passes a game. So that's not the way you win in the NFL, by the way, obviously.
And went to South Carolina, hell yeah.
Exactly.
But Vinny was he was out during the Schottenheimer year, which was probably one of the great things about that season. Vinny Serrato, Schottenheimer was in total control. That was another really memorable year, even though they didn't go to the playoffs. They started that season 0-5,
Yeah.
And they were getting blown out like in
and
the
then
first
won
3
10
games.
games in a row or something like
They
that.
won 5 games in a row. They made it 5-5. And their last win in that streak, obviously, was beating the Eagles. That was a sweet win.
Yeah.
They beat them in Philly with Donovan McNabb.
With McNabb, yeah.
So then they, I think, made it just like 6-8. And then they kind of fell apart from there. But they ended that season 8-8. They fell short of the playoffs. But Schottenheimer, that may have been one of his greatest coaching seasons ever. What he did for that team.
Yeah. I like that we get to be part of that Schottenheimer legacy, but albeit briefly, but like at least we get to on his plaque at the Hall of Fame that still says Redskins on there. So it's like we get a little bit.
He coached one season for the Redskins.
Hey,
him and Lombardi,
counts.
right?
So him and Lombardi, that's still counts.
Exactly.
Take it.
I can't believe on draft night, which is completely
tonight.
Which is tonight. I can't believe I'm talking this much football with you guys.
This is so good. We're back, Des. We know. We knew we could bring you back in. All right. So look, we know that it is draft night and there is stuff to do. We have the third half of the show to finish, which Brian's going to be mad at us. Yeah, just a tiny bit. It's not a big deal. But we want to tell Mike, give everybody a chance where they can get the book. Can we pre-order it? Can we have it drop shipped to us, or what's the deal?
The George Allen book is not available for sale just yet, but it's going to be. People will be able to do pre-orders through my website very shortly at MikeRichmondJournalist.com.
Okay.
MikeRichmondJournalist.com. And but that will be available very soon. I'm certain of that. Also, there are other books on the site that are available for sale, such as Joe Gibson Enduring Legacy, which I wrote for his foundation, Youth for Tomorrow. And I still have a lot of copies of the Redskins Encyclopedia. The Joe Gibbs book, the Redskins Encyclopedia, they're all collector's items. So get them while you can.
Yeah, we're gonna get out there and send the links out so everybody can know to get that. So pay attention throughout the week. You're gonna get bombarded. All right. Where can everybody follow you on the Twitters and such things about this?
It's MSR_journalist at MSR_journalist on Twitter. And I'm also on Facebook under Mike Richmond.
There you go. All right. And we'll send all the links. We'll tag you on everything.
We got to bring you back to talk about the state of journalism.
Yeah. Oh, well, that might be.
I would love to talk about that.
That's what we need.
What are you doing next week?
That's a subject in itself. I mean, I would say, I don't know what's being taught in the schools today, but one of the greatest classes I ever took was my high school journalism class, getting involved in the school newspaper. I mean, I would advocate that so much for journalism students today, not only the high school level, college level, just getting involved in their school newspapers, because you don't have to pursue a career in journalism, but having those writing skills can help you write a persuasive business letter to go along with your resume, or write a resume for that matter.
Well, journalism is now illegal in Florida, so I don't know if you wanted to, tell the students there at those high schools.
I would echo Mike though on that one too. I took a journalism class. Shout out to Mr. Math winning the silver chips at Montgomery Blair. But yes, one of the best classes I've ever been a part of. So
well, all right, so good. We will set that up because we care a lot about journalism on this show.
Please have me back.
We will definitely have you back. We really appreciate it. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to let Mike go. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will do the third half of the show because we do have just a couple more important things that we do want to touch on. You're listening to Chip Chat here on Beltway Radio and beyond. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you very much.
You see, I've made it this far. I'm like a hobo or a hobbit with a ring and a goblet, trying to make sure I'm not cut off a bobbit and not shut off like a tap and a faucet when the bills pile up and it's food or the lights and a toss up. What's up? See, they telling me one thing, it's like a ring to grab, like a carrot had a stick with a rope with a noose in the back. But I'm like a black rabbit and a black cat had a baby, and so I hop to it like it's bad luck, and just maybe it'll all work out. And I'll get the goods and avoid the trap, or it's back to square one once again. Been here so many times, it's like once we're friends, we make amends and make amends again. Get it? I don't. Not this again. Not this again. Not this again. Not this again. Risking my life and that of my next of kin. They don't know. It's like I'm a showboat in a slow boat on fast waters. They in a towboat. And when it busts, there ain't no floats. And with no floats, there's no hope. I'm like Skipper and Gilligan with a rowboat. The millionaire, his wife, the scientist, Marianne and the redhead try to hold a vote. Whether to stay or go. Make a home or try to take some hope. Is this a threat or no? But when the bread is buttered both sides and hard to swallow, the bitter pill look too nice for you, just unfollow. I'm on to the next man, see half my best hand, 2 steps ahead, I'm the groom, the game's my best man. See, it's a blessing now, I'm just guessing, I guess. Or is it just that I'm second guessing myself again? I guess. Not this again. Not this again. Not this again. Not this again. But without a doubt, not a regret, I'd do it again, but with a lot less sweat. Now that's not a sin.
All right, welcome back to Chip Chat here on Footway Radio and Beyond. I'm your host, Chip. With me is Tez. Thanks to Mike Richmond for hanging out with us, and we can't wait to have him back to talk about the decline of journalism in this country.
I can't believe you guys have me on draft night talking this much football. It's insane.
It's like we planned it.
This is how I'll tell people how much I enjoyed football to a point. Oh, I forgot what year, but on PlayStation 2, they had an NFL coaches game.
Yeah, you talked about this before.
And I had this coaches game. And it was too much. So I don't know. And abolish the draft. How do we have a draft in this country? and in sports.
Doesn't mean the same thing.
I know, but I'm talking about like free market and free movement.
Oh.
We preach this, but we don't do it in sports.
It's not a free market unless you're the Spurs and you can lose enough games or whatever.
Right. Insane.
All right.
That's a different show.
So let's talk about space stuff, because now apparently this show is about space.
Yeah, of course.
We've been about space for several weeks in a row.
long time.
So Japan tried to land a thing on the moon. What happened?
Didn't they lost contact with it, right?
It crashed.
Yeah.
It didn't work. They were very sad. And it went into, here's the quote, it apparently went into free fall towards the surface as it was running out of fuel to fire up its thrusters. So
that's a proper planning prevents poor performance move right there.
This is it's private enterprise attempt here. It wasn't directly funded by the government, I guess, if that's what you want to think about it. iSpace, which is working to deliver payloads such as rovers to the moon and sells related data, had only just listed on the Tokyo Stock Exchange 2 weeks ago.
Oh.
Wow. Sad. So the important point of this is that once again, the United States has retained our record and we are now 2-0 against Japan in world wars and moon landings.
Oh, breaking news. Breaking
news.
I don't have the mute music or anything. There you go. For the 16th pick of the 2023 draft, the Washington Commanders chose Emmanuel Forbes of Mississippi State, defensive back.
Right? Yeah, we need a DB. We'll take him.
Thank you.
Good job. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate that. Okay. Also in breaking news, Jerry Springer's dead. He died today at 79 years old. It's important to pay attention to the contribution that Jerry Springer has made to the world, which is specifically, you can make money exploiting poor white people too, and that's okay.
It's true. He did that a lot.
It's an okay category. Like, if you did the same thing with black folks, that would be buffoonery and that would be awful and that would be exploitative and that's wrong. But if you have poor white people beating each other up on stage, that's totally fine. And we appreciate that. So thank you, Jerry, for your contributions. Speaking of greats, and he was mayor of Cincinnati too, and member of the tribe. So, we miss him. Speaking of other greats who passed away this week, and granted, he was 96, but it still feels like it hurts. I would say soon to be Saint Harry Belafonte left us. He had an outsized impact on like a lot of stuff that people probably don't even know about, but from a musical perspective, which is one of the reasons I would have anything to say about this, he had this philosophy that I think he got from Robeson, this idea that if you could teach people your songs, they would have to try to find out more about where you come from.
Mhm.
And this is probably the most true thing I think I've ever heard, because there is a way to communicate a story through music that people can't get any other way. And I've never lived in the hollers of Kentucky or West Virginia or even regular Virginia, but I listen to a lot of bluegrass, and I have thusly gone and investigated where this music comes from and the history of it. Yeah, you have to. So, and what he did for the Caribbean is, in terms of for American ears, is tremendous.
It's insane. Yeah, I mean, there's it's hard to put into words his like contribution to music, to activism. Yeah, that one's you hope that someone who like that is someone you want to be around for damn near 100 years, because the impact of it is just
because he used
so
every
much.
minute of it to do the right thing.
Every minute of it.
There was, I don't know if you heard today, but they replayed the interview that Terry Gross had with him back in the 90s.
Oh, wow.
And
I'll
she
go
says,
check that
when
out.
did you become a civil rights activist?
Oh, God.
And his answer was, the day I was born. And if you think about like what Harry Belafonte was able to accomplish, and he brought his whole force of being to this cause for 96 years. He moved the needle in so many ways. Like MLK would have been stuck in that jail in Birmingham if it weren't for him. You know, like, I don't know, man. I
That
know
one's
it's if you, but a way to kind of like get a little touch of this is if you can go find this video clip. I think Quali posted it today, of the group of musicians that had gotten together with Quincy Jones to do the We Are the World stuff, and with Michael and all that stuff. And Harry's there, and he's like on the back row and all that, and they all start. Ray Charles, I think, maybe kicks it off, and like it's him and Smokey Robinson, and like we're talking about the absolute stars of stars, and they're singing Deo, and they're all taking. Stevie Wonder takes a turn doing a verse. They all doing verses. They're making up new verses or freestyling verses to Deo, just because he's there, and they all want to do this because he's there. Go watch it. It's very touching. It really feels good to see that. Okay. Last story. Speaking of things that do not feel good, Dumb Kevin tried to unmake America again by passing this.
He passed too.
He did pass it with
He passed it, which is
217
kinda
votes. It
crazy.
just barely got through. The idea is that the debt ceiling needs to be lifted because of this weird thing that we have in place for God knows what reason. Republicans, whenever they have an opportunity to be not the president, will make a fuss about the debt ceiling and say that they are not going to raise it unless they extract some sort of concession at the hands of poor folks, and in this case, farmers. So they decided they were going to cut food stamps and raise work requirements and kick 80 million people off of Medicaid and a whole bunch of other stuff. None of it makes any difference. It's not going to reduce the debt.
I'm going to tell you guys we're going to go over the cliff on this. It's going to happen.
Well, we're going to get downgraded. Fitch already said that they're running the risk even by simply passing this.
Yeah.
The amount of money here is ridiculous because, of course, the biggest hole in the budget is the Trump tax cuts. So these tax expenditures would make all the difference. Also included in this is trying to defund the IRS again. It's worth noting, remember we talked about this, that having more IRS agents was good. Call times to the IRS have reduced wait times by how much? Do you know?
No, what, 50?
90%.
Oh, wow.
The time you spend on hold is reduced by 90% because they hired some people. Yeah.
Again, and also, too, like, that is revenue that's coming into the federal government.
It is increased revenue for the federal government to the tune of $14 billion. So, yes. Again, they want this is their, what do you call it? Hustling backwards? That's exactly it.
That's completely it. But look, the stock market will drop, buy on the low, sell on the high.
They're gonna cause a recession.
Tank it. Yeah, I mean, they're gonna tank this. It's gonna,
and it's all really part of a plan. It's hard to see it otherwise.
No one cares about me trying to buy a new home.
Listen, you stupid millennials shouldn't have had all those trophies or whatever.
Exactly. And
Your avocado toast.
But I don't even like avocado toast.
Yeah.
I don't like.
I don't know how somehow we got stuck with that one. I mean, I like avocados, but it's not like the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like, to get an idea of how unprincipled these folks are on this, when the original bill that McCarthy brought up to the House, it had a rollback of every single fuel efficiency rule they could possibly look up. And then all
Big
of
Corn came and said,
Big Corn and all the square states were like, whoa, buddy, we need to sell this ethanol. That's kind of important to our economy. And they're like, oh, okay, well, then we'll just change it and knock that part out of it. That's not principled. That was just like, you just didn't know better, you fucking morons. What are we doing here? We're governing by crisis yet again. The Republicans specialize in governance of crisis that they create.
It's not going to bode well for him.
They can't win an election like that. And if these gerrymanders keep getting undone too, just saying.
I mean, but you can. You might not be able to win the White House, but you might be able to run into it.
Yeah, right. Or attack it.
So.
There's that red wave. Okay. That means we've come to the end of the show on that note about the red wave. We want to say thanks to Mike Richmond for joining us and helping us process the great news at the end of the Dan Snyder era, although he tried to temper our elation a little bit.
I don't blame him.
Thanks to our radio partners, The Daily Show last week tonight and The Tonight Show. Thanks to NOTN for keeping us on for another week, we assume, although we have no idea. Thanks to our digital media meatball, Isaac Elam. Thanks to our home on the interwebs, coplaymedia.com. And thanks, as always, to our family here at Beltway Radio for making us sound as smooth as the fire recovery at our building, which obviously is not happening since we're remote. We'll be back in studio next week, I promise. Also, shout out to the end of The Takeaway, because apparently in public radio you can't have a show centering black women and people of color and non-binary and
I can't. You broke that news to me when I saw you tweet that.
I'm fucking mad about this. They did this to Michelle Martin's show and they did it to Farai Chidea's show, and it's like, this is the same thing every time. They did it to this. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't have black radio apparently.
Not on public.
You can come here to Beltway, MHP. Sure. Just saying, we will give you a show for free, 100%.
100%.
Yeah. You just got to let us be on it sometimes.
Sometimes. A little bit.
A little bit. We'd love to. Chip Chat, now hosted by Melissa Harris Perry.
Yeah, look, more days off.
I'll take it. All right, where can everybody get you on the socials and stuff?
You can find me with my posse trying to stay out of the way of Phil Jackson, fucking bozo.
Yeah,
anyway,
what a thing to say.
Anyway, no, you can find me anyway. Insane. You can find me on Twitter with When It Works at DC Cortez and on Instagram at Ketchup40.
You can find me and the show on Twitter, also When It Works, at ChipChatRR. And you can find us on Facebook or Instagram at RipChipChat. And you can, of course, find us every Thursday night here at 9:30 on Beltway Radio and beyond. I'm Chip. That's Tez. Brian's in the background. Mike was here for a little while. You've been listening to Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and beyond.
Sweeps. Posse.
Street balls.